When life strips you of everything your name, your confidence, your pride, what remains is the truth. And sometimes that truth is ugly, raw, and so heavy it bends your soul. But listen to me closely. Those who are abandoned by the world are often chosen by fate. The crowd may forget you, but that doesn't mean your story is over. It means you're being called into solitude, because only in solitude can you rebuild something indestructible. You don't need noise to be powerful. You don't need validation to grow. What you need is silence sharp enough to cut away who you used to be and focus strong enough to forge who you were always meant to become. These are not ideas. These are principles, forged in fire, tested in silence, applied when no one was watching. If you're ready to disappear and become something no one expects, then these are the 7 unbreakable principles I followed to rebuild myself alone, and they will work for you too. 1. Starve the world. Feed the fire within. When life collapses around you, when everything you once relied on begins to fall apart, most people instinctively run toward comfort. They scroll endlessly through social media, hoping for a moment of distraction. They binge on entertainment, trying to drown out the quiet scream inside their soul. They reach out to people who were never truly good for them, just to avoid being alone with their thoughts. They eat, they sleep, they procrastinate, and they call it rest. But comfort in these moments is not your friend. It's a trap, a silent poison. It doesn't just slow you down. It seduces you into staying broken. It whispers, "You deserve to relax," while quietly making you weaker by the day. You must understand this deeply. Comfort is the most dangerous enemy of transformation. It disguises itself as healing, but it steals your hunger, your drive, your will to rise again. If you are serious about rebuilding yourself, then in the moments when you feel the urge to numb out or escape, you must do the opposite. You must become ruthless with what you allow into your mind. Shut the door. Turn off the noise. Get off the platforms that keep feeding you distraction. Stop following people who make you feel like you're falling behind. Cancel the patterns that kept you average. Ignore the friends who only show up to gossip, not to grow. Create a space around you that is sacred, completely yours, where no other voice, no other energy can interfere with your rebirth. This space may be your room, your journal, your training mat, or just your breath. Wherever it is, protect it like your life depends on it, because in a way, it does. And once you've starved the world, now it's time to feed something greater. The fire within. Not just motivation that fades, not just excitement that dies fast. I'm talking about discipline. Daily rituals that build steel inside your bones. Wake up early not for anyone else, but to prove to yourself that you are no longer that person who waited for life to change. Control your breath, because the one who controls his breath controls his mind. Train your body not for show, but to remind yourself that your body listens when your mind leads. Read powerful books not for entertainment, but to rewire your perspective and awaken new thoughts. Think deeply, journal honestly, practice silence. Feed that fire like it is the only light you have in the darkness. You must understand this truth. While the world tries to sell you comfort and escape, you must choose confrontation. You must stand directly in front of your own weakness and refuse to look away. You must face your fear, not avoid it. You must revisit the past that haunts you, not run from it. You must become stronger, not just physically, but mentally and spiritually. Because when your inner world becomes stronger than anything the outside world can throw at you, then and only then are you truly free. That is how you begin. That is how you rise. By starving the noise and feeding the fire every single day. 2. Become the architect of your own resurrection. When everything falls apart, your plans, your identity, your sense of direction, the world will either pity you or leave you behind. But let me tell you something most people never understand. Nobody is coming to save you. No mentor, no friend, no parent, no lover can do the rebuilding for you. They might give you advice. They might hand you tools. But the blueprint, the foundation, the work, that's yours alone. And if you don't pick up the pieces, no one else will. You must stop waiting for permission to begin again. You must stop wishing someone would fix what life or your own decisions have broken. Instead, you must make a bold decision to stand in the ruins and become the architect of your own resurrection. And this begins not with action, but with radical self-honesty. You must look at what failed not as a victim, but as an investigator. What habits led you here? What did you allow for too long? Where did you choose comfort over growth, fear over action, distraction over purpose? This is not about blaming yourself, it's about owning your power. Because the moment you take full responsibility for what's broken, you also take full control over what you can build next. So now, you planet a fantasy, but a blueprint. You don't ask, what do I want? You ask, what kind of person must I become to never fall like this again? Then you reverse engineer that version of yourself. You design your morning routines around becoming focused. You structure your days around discipline. You filter your relationships around energy and values. You shape your environment around clarity. You begin to construct a life that is not based on chance, but on intention. This work is not glamorous. There is no applause. There are no instant rewards. There is only silence, sweat, and repetition. But every day, brick by brick, you're building something no one else can see. Something stronger, wiser, untouchable. And over time, the shape of your resurrection becomes clear. You wake up with purpose. Your words become sharper. Your actions become aligned. You stop explaining yourself. You stop needing validation. You begin to walk differently, not with arrogance, but with quiet certainty. And here's what's important. You are not rebuilding to return to your old self. That version of you is gone, and that's a good thing. You are rebuilding to become someone new, someone evolved, someone more aware, more focused, more ruthless with your time, and more gentle with your soul. The pain you went through was not for nothing. It was a demolition. It cleared the space so that something more powerful could be born. That something is you. Never forget this. Rebirth is not given, it is built. And if you want to rise from the ashes, you must draw your own map. You must be the worker, the builder, the sculptor, and the spirit behind every change. No one else can do it for you. And the day you embrace that is the day you stop surviving and start evolving. 3, slice away everything that isn't you. When people think of rebuilding, they often imagine adding more habits, more achievements, more knowledge. But true transformation doesn't begin with addition. It begins with removal, not becoming more, but becoming less of what you're not. Less of what the world made you believe you had to be. Less of the fake masks you wore to survive. The truth is, the strongest version of you is already inside, but it's buried beneath layers of lies, conditioning, fear, and false identities. To rebuild yourself, you must not sculpt something new out of clay. You must carve away the excess from the stone. This is not creation. This is exposure. You are not building a mask, you are uncovering your essence. The problem is that you've been wearing armor that doesn't belong to you. Beliefs you never chose. Expectations you never questioned. Roles you played just to be accepted by people who never really knew you. And every time you said yes when you meant no, every time you stayed silent to avoid conflict, every time you shrunk to fit into a room, you moved a little further away from your truth. Rebuilding begins when you stop chasing the world's approval and start reclaiming your own identity. It's not always loud. Sometimes it's just sitting alone and asking yourself one terrifying question. Who am I, really? You must take the blade of awareness and begin slicing. Cut away the habits that keep you numb. Cut away the fear that keeps you small. Cut away the need to be understood by people who don't even understand themselves. This is not a clean or easy process. It is a war. There will be days when you feel like nothing is left. That's okay. Those are the days you're getting close. Because everything that falls away was never truly you. Every piece that crumbles was dead weight. Every mask that slips off is a victory. And let me tell you this, people around you may not like the change. They'd like the version of you that was convenient, agreeable, controllable, but if it's not real, it cannot stay. The moment you start shedding what no longer fits, you'll make space for what truly belongs. Clarity, energy, truth, and direction. That space you create inside, that silence, that emptiness, don't rush to fill it. Let it breathe. Let it teach you. Because in that silence, your real voice begins to return, not the one you used to impress, but the one you buried a long time ago just to survive. Rebuilding yourself alone is not just about rising, it's about refining. You stop carrying what isn't yours. You stop pretending. You stop reacting to things that once consumed you. And little by little, what remains is real. What remains is focused. What remains is powerful, not because it was added, but because everything false was removed. You will know you are close when you no longer need to explain who you are to anyone. When your peace doesn't require validation. When your strength doesn't require noise. Slice away everything that isn't you. Every belief, every behavior, every identity that was forced upon you. It will hurt at first. But one day, you'll look in the mirror and finally recognize yourself. Again, not the broken version, not the masked version, but the one who was always waiting underneath it all. That is who you are meant to become. For train until your shadow respects you. Every one of us carries a shadow, the version of ourselves we try to hide from the world. It's made of weakness, fear, hesitation, laziness, and all the silent betrayals we've committed against our own potential. It's the voice that says, I'll do it later. The one that says, I'm not good enough. The one that always has an excuse ready. You don't need to fight the world first. You need to face that, because your shadow has lived with you longer than anyone else. It knows your patterns. It knows your doubts. And it whispers to you when no one else is around. And most people, they obey it without realizing. They let it lead them. They wake up every day and hand the wheel over to their shadow and then wonder why they stay stuck. To rebuild yourself alone, you must train until your shadow respects you. That means going to war with the version of you that is comfortable staying broken. You must be willing to wake up before that voice starts whispering, to move before fear arrives, to take control before hesitation sneaks in. You cannot just hope for strength. You must earn it in silence, in solitude, in discipline so sharp it slices through every excuse. Training isn't just physical, it's mental, emotional, and spiritual. You train by controlling your reactions. You train by breaking your own patterns. You train by doing the opposite of what your weaker self wants to do. Most people only train when they feel motivated. But the master trains when he feels nothing, when he's tired, when he's uninspired, when no one is watching, because he knows that the version of himself that will rise is not built in moments of ease, it is built in moments of resistance. You want to become unrecognizable? Then train when it's inconvenient. Grow when it hurts. Be consistent when no one cares. Show up not for the world, but for your own soul. This kind of training changes your relationship with your own mind. You begin to notice that the shadow gets quieter not because it disappears, but because it starts to recognize your strength. It doesn't dare question you when you've proven again and again that you are not the same, that you don't collapse under pressure, that you no longer wait for perfect conditions to act. Every rep, every breath, every cold shower, every disciplined hour is not just a routine. It is a message sent directly to your shadow. You don't run the show anymore. There's no finish line here. The shadow always exists. But your job is to rise so high, to move with such integrity that even your shadow must evolve or be left behind. This is a level of self-respect that can't be faked. It's not loud. It doesn't need quotes. It doesn't need validation. It's the quiet power you feel when you look in the mirror and know deep in your bones that you did not betray yourself today. The world may never applaud this kind of work. That's fine. Because this is not about applause, this is about alignment. And once you've trained long enough, hard enough, honestly enough, you will feel it, the shift. Your thoughts become sharper. Your energy becomes heavier. You walk into a room and people feel something different, not because you speak louder, but because your presence carries weight. The weight of someone who conquered their own darkness. The weight of someone who earned their transformation. So don't just train to improve. Train to dominate the weaker version of yourself. Train until the shadow that once ruled you begins to follow your lead. Train until it no longer questions your moves but adapts to your new rhythm. That's when you know the real you is in control. 5. Speak only through transformation. In the early stages of change, most people make one critical mistake: they talk too much. The moment they start improving, even just a little, they want to announce it. They post about it. They tell everyone, I'm healing, I'm changing, I'm different now. But this kind of talk is dangerous. It creates a false sense of arrival before you've even begun the journey. You start feeling rewarded for the image of growth, not the reality of it. You start chasing attention, not mastery. And the worst part, the more you talk, the more fragile your transformation becomes. Because when your identity is tied to how others see your progress, the moment they doubt your worth, ignore you, you collapse back into the old version of yourself. When you're truly rebuilding yourself, silence becomes your shield. You stop needing to explain yourself. You stop trying to convince anyone. You stop seeking updates and applause. You begin to understand something most people never will. Real growth is not loud. It's quiet. It's slow. It's uncomfortable. And it's sacred. You don't shout about it because you're too busy living it. You don't need to share it because the results will speak for you in time. This isn't about hiding. This is about protecting the process. When you are transforming at the deepest level, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, you are fragile. Not weak, but delicate. Like a new tree pushing through the soil. It doesn't need attention. It needs space. It needs consistency. It needs sun and water and time. Your rebirth is the same. Every morning you wake up earlier than your excuses. Every night you say no to distractions. Every time you sit with your emotions instead of running from them, you are building something real. And that reality does not need decoration. It doesn't need filters or slogans. It needs depth. It needs discipline. And it needs your full focus. People will ask where you've been. Let them wonder. Let them guess. Let them speak while you work. You don't owe anyone updates. If someone truly understands growth, they'll recognize it without a single word. They'll see it in your eyes, in the way you carry yourself, in the way you don't react to things that once controlled you. Your silence is not emptiness. It's precision. It's knowing that energy spent explaining yourself is energy stolen from your evolution. And when the time comes, when you re-enter the world after months or even years of silent discipline, don't say anything. Walk in with the weight of someone who knows who they are. Let them feel the difference. Let your calm become your signature. Let your strength be seen, not spoken. That's when they'll ask, what happened to you? And you'll smile and nod, because you need to answer, but because you know the truth. You became someone they no longer recognize, not because you've changed your clothes, or your words, or your style, but because your spirit has changed frequency. That's the power of transformation. It speaks in presence, not in speech. It echoes through your actions, not through announcements. And it lasts because it wasn't built to impress. It was built to endure. So don't waste time trying to convince others that you're rising. Don't seek permission to grow. Don't dilute your power by explaining it. Live it. Protect it. And let it be seen only when it is undeniable. When people feel your transformation, they won't need to be told. And when you know who you truly are, neither will you. 6. Endure the isolation. It's a gift in disguise. When you begin to rebuild yourself alone, one of the first things you will feel often louder than any thought is isolation. A silence that surrounds you, presses into your chest, and follows you wherever you go. At first, it feels unbearable. It feels like punishment, like the universe has abandoned you. The people you once counted on vanish. The conversations stop. The invites dry up. The world no longer seems to notice you. But let me tell you something, very few people understand this is not the end of your story. This is the sacred middle, the in-between space, the quiet valley between the life you've outgrown and the life you haven't stepped into yet. And if you can survive this silence, if you can sit with it without running, it will give you something nothing else can. Transcendence. Most people fear isolation because they've never learned how to be with themselves. They chase company because they are terrified of what will surface in the stillness, the regrets, the insecurities, the echoes of failure. But what they don't realize is that those ghosts were always there, they just stayed hidden beneath the noise. Isolation doesn't create your demons, it reveals them. And that is why it's a gift, because it gives you a chance to confront what you've been avoiding your entire life. You don't conquer yourself in front of a crowd. You conquer yourself when no one is watching, and you still choose discipline, still choose growth, still choose truth, even when there is no applause to reward you for it. You must understand, isolation is a furnace, a refining fire. It burns away what is weak and leaves only what is pure. Your ego will scream for attention. Your doubts will beg you to give up. Your mind will try to seduce you into going back to the people, the habits, the false comfort. But you must endure, not just physically, but spiritually. Endure the long nights where your only company is your own breath. Endure the mornings when no one texts you back. Endure the days when everything feels still, empty, and pointless. Because inside that emptiness, something sacred is forming. A different version of you is emerging, one that is not addicted to validation, not afraid of solitude, and not fragile under pressure. This kind of endurance cannot be learned in books. It must be lived. You must experience the loneliness so deeply that you begin to hear a different voice, the quiet voice within that you silenced for years. It will speak softly at first, but the more you listen, the louder it becomes. It tells you where to go, what to let go of, what to build. It doesn't shout, it whispers. And only in isolation can you hear it clearly. That voice is your essence. That is the true you. And once you connect with it, you will never fear being alone again, because you'll realize you were never alone. You just hadn't met yourself fully yet. And something else happens, slowly and powerfully. The pain of isolation transforms into strength. The silence becomes your sanctuary. You begin to prefer solitude because it brings you peace. You no longer tolerate shallow conversations. You no longer chase empty friendships. You no longer sell your time just to fill a void. Your standards rise. Your energy sharpens. Your mind clears. And when people finally see you again, they won't understand where this power came from, but you will, because it came from those silent hours, those lonely days, those nights where your tears became prayers and your breath became your anchor. You earned it in the dark. So if you are in the middle of that isolation right now, hold your ground. Do not rush to escape it. Do not try to fill the silence. Let it mold you. Let it challenge you. Let it teach you how to be enough for yourself. Because the person who can master isolation can never be broken by the world again. They walk into rooms with calm. They don't beg for love. They don't crumble under rejection. They carry peace inside them because they forged it when no one else was there to give it. Remember, you are not being buried. You are being planted. And in this soil of silence, away from eyes and noise, you are growing roots so deep that no storm will ever uproot you again. That is the hidden power of isolation. It does not just shape you. It transforms you into someone who doesn't just survive the world, but commands it with presence, with clarity, with grace. So stay in the silence. Endure the void. Honor the space between who you were and who you are becoming. Because that space is where legends are born. 7. Return not as a man, but as a force. There comes a moment, after months or even years of silent rebuilding, when the world begins to call your name again. You start to feel the shift. The weight you once carried now feels like armor. The silence that once tormented you now feels like peace. The parts of you that were weak, confused, addicted to approval, they're no longer there. You've shed them like dead skin. What remains is something sharper, deeper, calmer, more dangerous. And now, the door opens. It's time to return. But not as the man you once were, not as the version they expect. You return as a force quiet, steady, undeniable. Most people return from pain just hoping to be accepted again. They want to fit back into the world, reclaim their place, be liked, be loved, be seen. But if you've truly done the work, if you've endured the isolation, if you've fed the fire, if you've trained until your shadow bowed to you, then fitting in should never be the goal again. You didn't rebuild to fit in. You rebuilt to rise above. You don't come back with noise. You don't come back with announcements. You don't chase those who forgot you. You don't argue with those who doubted you. You simply walk back in with presence so heavy, it shifts the room without a single word. Because by now, your strength isn't loud. It's not explosive. It's contained, compressed, controlled. Like a storm that could erupt at any second but doesn't need to because its power is already understood. That's the level of mastery you've cultivated. You've burned through ego. You've broken down false identities. You've tasted your own darkness and came out golden. Now your silence is respected. Your movements are intentional. Your time is sacred. And when people interact with you, they don't meet a person, they meet a frequency. You're not there to prove anything. The world is filled with people trying to prove themselves. They talk too much, try too hard, need too much. But you already know who you are. And that knowing changes everything. You don't defend yourself. You don't over-explain. You don't react. You observe. You calculate. You choose your energy with precision. And the world begins to notice you not. because you told them Tobit, because your entire being now speaks without needing a voice. They'll say, you've changed, and they'll be right, but not in the way they think. You didn't just shift your habits or your appearance. You didn't just read a few books or follow a new routine. You changed at the cellular level. You changed in the marrow of your bones, in the rhythm of your breath, in the stillness of your mind. You rewrote your code. You dismantled who you were and rebuilt someone so focused, so pure, so grounded that the old version of you would no longer recognize this one. Now, you no longer live in reaction, you live in creation. You don't take random steps, you make calculated moves. You don't chase what you lost, you magnetize what is aligned. And everything about you begins to reflect that. Your walk, your gaze, your voice, your silence. The people who once underestimated you will feel it, not as punishment, not as revenge, but as a mirror. Your presence now forces others to see the parts of themselves they've been avoiding. And that's why some will be inspired and some will be uncomfortable. But none of that matters to you anymore, because you've transcended the need to be understood. Your mission is no longer validation. Your mission is expression. You're here to embody your truth, to live aligned with your values, to protect your peace, to walk with purpose. You are no longer just a man recovering from a fall. You are a force that rose from your own ashes, a force that cannot be manipulated, a force that cannot be shaken, a force that doesn't need attention to feel real, because your power was forged in solitude, in sweat, in silence, in self-mastery. And now you move through the world as a rare presence, not controlled by it, but controlling your experience within it. You don't push, you attract. You don't explain, you radiate. You don't fear the future because you've already survived the destruction of your past. And what you've built in the dark, no one can take from you now. So when you return to it with grace, with stillness, with that slight smile that says, you have no idea what I had to overcome to be here. And don't say a word. You don't need to. Because when you've truly become a force, your presence is louder than anything your voice could ever say. So now you've heard the truth, not sugar-coated, not simplified, but spoken from the path I walked, myself the path of silence, solitude, and self-mastery. These 7 principles are not theories. They are weapons forged in fire. And if you apply them, not once, not when it's easy, but every single day, you will become something few people on this earth ever reach: whole, grounded, and unshakable. You see, most people never rebuild. They break once and stay broken. They wait for someone to rescue them. They wait for the world to change. They wait for a sign. But the ones who truly rise, they don't wait. They go into the silence. They disappear. They isolate, not to escape, but to evolve. And when they come back, they no longer need to explain their worth. Their very presence becomes a testament to what was built in the dark. You don't rebuild to become the old you. That version is gone, and that's exactly how it should be. You rebuild to become the version the pain was preparing you for. You rebuild to become the architect of your own resurrection, the sculptor of your soul, the commander of your mind. And when you return to the world, not everyone will understand you. They're not meant to. Let them be confused. Let them gossip. Let them guess. You are no longer here to be understood. You are here to be unshakable. You are no longer here to be liked. You are here to be authentic. You are no longer here to prove. You are here to embody. So carry this with you. Starve the noise. Feed the fire. Design your resurrection with precision. Cut away everything that isn't truly you. Train until your shadow submits. Speak only through action. Endure the silence with honor. And when it's time, return not as the man they remember, but as the force they can no longer ignore, because your story isn't over. In fact, it's just beginning. And this time, you write it with power.